Hi everyone, this is Drew Wharton with Nimble Leader along with Ed Flanagan. Ed is Managing Director with Nimble Leader. He's a CPA MBA and Director with Expense Reduction Analysts, a global cost reduction firm with best practice capability in both indirect and direct costs. During our session today, we're going to focus on ways to easily mine your company financial data to determine immediate term savings. Okay, so let's jump into our session on Reduce Costs Now.
Talk to us about portfolio analysis of a company's spend and why this is so important.
So, Drew, when we get a company to provide us with a 12-month general ledger of all their expenses, so we don't need payroll, we don't need the balance sheet, just their expenses, what we do is we break it down to 4 different quadrants. And as you can see, the actionable categories are the ones that we focus on because we have deep experience in those. We can also look at the discoverable categories once we obtain additional data. And then we've got a couple categories that have lower return on investment. And these are categories that take a lot of time and they don't have big savings. There's minimal savings opportunities in those areas. And then the other quadrant is non-addressable. And these are payments that we can't help. And it's things like payments to the taxing authorities and a lot of intercompany payments.
Okay, so you share with prospective clients the breakdown of the buckets: actionable, discoverable, lower ROI, and non-addressable. And so there's a path here in terms of where they might go next. Ed, you often speak of a timing sequence when savings are realized. Can you share with us what you mean, your experience with this?
Sure. So, Drew, if we identify, let's say, 10 to 12 expense categories, we could start all 10 to 12 of those at one time, but it would be overwhelming for the client. So what we try to do is we try to start 3 or 4 at a time. And then once we get them to the point where savings start occurring, then we go on and tackle additional categories. So this chart shows you over the first 90 to 120 days, there's no savings because at that point, we're gathering data and negotiating with suppliers. So the savings start once we implement the savings. And then we share 50% with the client in the first 2 years. And then after 2 years, the client gets 100% of the savings. So you can see in the chart where the savings really peak up after the second year.
Okay, so long-term impact in terms of working with you to drive what those potential savings are. Now, Ed, with actionable reviews, you speak of recommended versus maximize cost reduction opportunities. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so the recommended cost savings are those that were actionable, that we have deep experience and we can start right away. And then maximum are once we get additional data in the discoverable section and also the lower ROI spends. If you add the 3 of those together, that's the maximum saving.
Okay, great. This last chart was something that was really of interest to me in terms of granular detail drill down with your spend view capability. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this gives the client very detailed knowledge about things that are going on within the company that they may not realize. So in this situation, we have employee reimbursements, and we had a situation where one of the employees was a salesperson, and we found out that their reimbursements exceeded 3 times their salary. And when the CFO heard that, she right away said, we've got to really look into that. So what we're able to do is give them that very detailed, granular data so they can see where there's things that are really out of whack, and they can explore that and get more detail.
Okay, everyone, this brings us to the end of our time today. During the first session of this series on cost reduction, we addressed why companies often overpay suppliers 10 to 30%. During the second session, we explored the Pareto principle, supplier density, and why it's likely that 80% of your suppliers are costing you money. And then during today's session, we looked at ways to easily mine your company financial data to determine immediate term savings. If you have questions relative to any of this, please reach out to Ed or myself, and if we have your email address, we'd be happy to send you a copy of today's slides. And finally, if you're interested in cost reduction for your business, please note, if we don't find you savings, there's no cost to you. Thanks again for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.